Well, hello everybody, welcome back to Succeed with Omid. It's been so long since I posted one of these things, I grew a ridiculous beard. Before I get into the rest of this video, I'm just going to give a heads up. This is going to be fairly technical. There's a lot of anatomy that I'm going to throw into this, but it's the idea of why the bicep actually causes a lot of shoulder problems, neck problems, jaw problems, and how to fix it. And I also want to address one other thing. I know that the background here is all sorts of messy and my beard might not be groomed and hair all sorts of weird, but honestly the only reason I put these videos out is kind of as a public service to the people that actually feel pain when they're doing this sort of stuff. And when you've got pain, you don't care about any of this stuff. I'm not looking for thousands and thousands of views. I'm just looking to help some people out and share some stuff with the world. So the bicep is really important to understand. If I show this anatomy textbook here, it comes all the way up and attaches to the actual shoulder itself, right on the shoulder blade. It actually doesn't come up to the collarbone or the acromion like a lot of people think. It actually goes through the body onto a part of the shoulder blade that sticks through. And this is the main reason why a lot of guys will actually swing weights, is to basically use that shoulder blade's hinging action to try and lift. Problem is, if the shoulder blade's getting pulled through every single time, yeah, you'll be able to lift a big weight, but rubbing and tearing starts to happen inside of here as the tissue gets basically stuck. So the biggest challenge is that we also live in a bicep curled position with texting, driving, clicking on the remote control, constantly eating, sitting at a desk with poor posture. We're always in this shortened position, and the extra amount of tension that's pulling here is constantly pulling the shoulder down. Couple that with very weak thoracic extension or straightening, and you've got a recipe for that shoulder blade to be pulled through pretty much all day, every day. So that's basically what's going on. If I add weight to this, it actually gets way worse. I'm going to show you that in a sec. But I promise you that by the end of this video, I'll be equipped with 3 or 4 reasons, things of how to fix this. All right, I'll be right back. So now that we understand where the bicep actually attaches to, and one of the reasons a lot of the shoulder problems can actually occur, it's really important to understand how the nervous system actually works. The weakest muscle is the one that's last to fire in an actual chain of movement. I got a 20-pound weight here. I never do actual bicep curls myself. I like a lot more functional pulling type motions to get the bicep. But if my bicep, for example, is very weak, or my thoracic extenders are weak, as a trainer, I can give the cue, hey, put the shoulder back and chest up all I want to, but if the bicep is weak, I'm really going to have a lot of trouble giving somebody that cue, because the body will always default to a position or pattern of strength. If my shoulder is a lot stronger in this position, if my jaw is a lot stronger in this position, you see people grunting and pulling their chins up and back trying to get the bicep curl to work. It's always going to go there. So rule number 1, if you have trouble with this and shoulder issues, lighten the load, and really focusing on keeping the shoulder back and getting a long, smooth motion with that weight as much as you possibly can. I've rehabbed some shoulder problems where we've actually even had to go all the way down to 2 pounds because it was just that deconditioned. We started a process of basically greasing the groove, as we call it, 30, 40, 50 reps at a time for 5, 6, 7 sets, pretty much almost the entire workout, just to get the body and mind reconnected in that pattern with a good shoulder position. I've got one more little trick for you, and then a whole other set of anatomy that I'll try and breeze through. So I talked just a little bit briefly about the bicep getting short and tight because we spend so much time in those positions these days. So one of the ways we can train this muscle effectively is by, instead of letting it come all the way long in this direction, pulling on the shoulder, is lifting the arm up and effectively shortening this top part here and really just working the bottom half. It's also going to give us a really good opportunity to say, hey, listen, pull that shoulder back, and as a coach I can push on it, and they'll have to push it back here, and then I'll have to do some curls. And there's a lot of ways we can play with that. How I like to do it in the house is just grabbing some bands, anchoring it to a door, and just doing curls here. Shoulders up and back, pulling through, and coming down. Curling through, and coming down. For a lot of clients, I'll actually do a double whammy here, and I'll say, hey, listen, pull the shoulders back, pull the elbows down and back to engage tricep, teres major, lats, rhomboids, middle traps, and then do the curls here. It's nowhere near as effective to build the biceps. It's nowhere near a concentration on the biceps or anything. If you're a bodybuilding, you're laughing at me right now. I'm very much aware of it. But for a lot of clients, what will happen is that their rotator cuff will start to go on fire, their lats will go on fire, rhomboids on fire, their chest will actually start to open for the first time in years because we're confusing the nervous system in a way that's never been used before. And now all of a sudden I'm really starting to get this extension of the arm, flexion of the arm with stable shoulder blades. It's a beautiful little exercise to give people with shoulder problems to really get a lot of therapy and benefit out of this. So I talked about the bicep itself and a lot of the movements that we can do to rehab that and how it directly affects the shoulder and shoulder blade. But there's one other layer about this, and by the way, this video was actually requested by somebody through my Facebook page. So if you have any questions or anything, that's a great way to ask for information like this. I'll tailor to your specific ask, just like I'm doing with this video. But there's something important we've got to understand about kinetic chains. The fascia and the skin are actually pieces of connective tissue that can connect large swaths of our body. And there's a lot of research that basically shows that the fascia is actually one continuous piece of electrically and magnetically active tissue that goes all the way from the top of our head all the way down to our feet. So if we're talking about a bicep curl, when I'm talking about holding onto something and pulling it towards my shoulder, the shoulder's active, the biceps active, the forearm's active, all of the fingers are active, but also anything that can help with that. And what I usually tell people is if you put a fist right next to your forehead, everything from that point of contact to this point of contact is active. From the top of the head here, through the jaw, through the neck, through the arm, everything shares the same fascial structures, and a lot of the times the same nerves fire when we use that muscle. So a lot of times people have jaw pain, and I'll come in and I'll actually massage through their hand, especially this little pad right here, and I can actually clear up a lot of jaw pain that happens. Or if somebody's having, for example, one of those stress tension headaches, I can actually get into the neck down here and start to relieve enough nerve flow and blood flow to actually get through the jaw to get into that kind of stuff. I've even gone through some eye pains right through here in the temple. You get that crackling headache, and that could actually be coming from a mildly dislocated wrist, and we can get through some corrective exercises and stretching to get through that as well. I'm not necessarily a therapist. I don't necessarily prescribe a lot of that sort of stuff on the internet, so please go see somebody in person that's actually licensed and experienced enough to take care of that kind of stuff. But I do want to say, hey, listen, we got to look at the entire chain to see what's going on, if we need any kind of manual therapies or mobilizations, or if there's a blocked nerve somewhere that's pretty serious, go see a chiropractor or somebody that can click that stuff back into place. But I just wanted to briefly touch on fascia and how it connects everything together. The last little tip of information I want to give you guys is how I actually structure client workouts and my own personal programs if I'm ever going to actually be doing something like a bicep curl. And whether it's for the warm-up or whether it's actually part of the workout, I will always have some form of scapular retraction exercise before the bicep curl. Like I've mentioned in this video like 6 times by now, whenever we do this kind of curl, we're getting back to our normal patterns of behavior through our lives, which is this. Curling up the phone to get here, curling up the spoon to our mouth, whatever it's going to be. I'm not saying those things are bad. We just got to learn how to survive our 21st century lives. So whether it's some form of bent over row or prone cobra or overhead reach with a retraction, hanging from a bar with retraction, doing scap pull downs, anything that gets the shoulder blades warmed up into a back retracted position. And if I need to, I'll even put in some release or stretch for the chest to allow the shoulders to even get back. Then what I do on top of that is I'll always use the bicep curl, if it's even in the workout by the way, as a drop set to that retracting. So if I'm doing a prone cobra for 2-3 minutes, then I'll have them get right back into a bicep curl, but with the focus of those shoulder blades staying back. Bodybuilders, you'll actually get a better bicep workout by doing that. If you're in this position, you're shortening the bicep. And if you want to get nice, long, lean, huge biceps, you got to take it to its full range of motion, which is retracted and back. So that's the last tip for you guys. I know this video is already running long. I warned you. But I hope this information has been very helpful to you guys. To the person that actually requested the video, thank you very much for the question. I hope I did a good job answering it. But as always, have a happy and healthy rest of your day. I'll talk to you next time.